Today's video is brought to you by Wondrium. There are many stories in Egyptian mythology that raise a few eyebrows, but none so much as the one we're going to talk about today. Be warned, it's gross. Is it grosser than Osiris and Isis getting it on, despite basically being brother and sister? It's grosser. Is it grosser than Anubis keeping chunks of people that he's helped? It's grosser. Is it grosser than the first gods being basically made from atoms' vomit? Oh, it's definitely grosser, and they definitely won't teach it in schools either. But fear not, I'm about to, well, ruin your appetite. So finish eating and get ready to regurgitate, and the next time anyone tells you to eat your greens, you tell them. You tell them to make sure Horus isn't in the kitchen. You get that away from me. Before we get to exposing Horus for his culinary crimes, a brief message from the sponsor of today's video, Wondrium. Wondrium is an online subscription service offering university-grade content in a variety of different subjects. By signing up to Wondrium, you can gain access to a library of over 11,000 videos and lectures about, well, pretty much anything, from science, maths, history, literature, or even the more creative arts like photography. Wondrium's library is constantly evolving, and so I'm sure you won't have any difficulty finding something that resonates with you. One course I've looked at this month is Food, a Cultural Culinary History. And fear not, I've double checked to make sure Horus isn't lurking around in any of these episodes. What is in each episode though are super interesting facts and lore about food from all over the world. Take a trip across the globe in each episode as you visit diverse regions and even eras from history, and learn not just what people from a time long ago ate, but what food meant to them too. Whether it be ancient Egypt, classical China, or the European Dark Ages, Food, a Cultural Culinary History, guides you through over 30 episodes of incredible knowledge that is bound to satisfy the foodie in you. One thing I found fascinating from Food, a Cultural Culinary History is seeing the evolution of human hunting, from man's early archaic tools to the more refined methods we use today. Food, a Cultural Culinary History shows this transition through the eras of history, and I've come to appreciate how difficult it must have been to maintain a healthy diet some thousands of years ago. Sign up to your free trial to Wondrium today by clicking my link below, or heading to wondrium.com/thelegendsofhistory. And now back to today's episode. Many of you will likely know of Horus, the falcon-headed god who not only avenged his murdered father by defeating his evil, tyrannical uncle Set, but also ascending the throne of Egypt as the king of the gods. Horus, whose name meant he who is above, possessed a body that symbolized the heavens themselves, whilst his eyes were also believed to be the sun and the moon respectively in some beliefs. Considering his feats in the mythology, you'd be forgiven for thinking of Horus as a hero, a man who stood out from the shadow of his usurped father and not only honoured his memory, but delivered vengeance upon the culprit. In its simplest telling, Horus is a hero, and he does overcome his uncle's wickedness, but to say he did it all by himself would be untrue, and to say he did it without getting his hands dirty would be even more untrue. Indeed, there exists a story that brings a whole new meaning to tossing a salad. In the mythology, we are told that Osiris was once the king of the gods, but that his brother Set grew envious of him and wished to usurp him. So Set killed him by tricking him into entering a sarcophagus and slicing him up into multiple pieces. Taking the throne for himself, Osiris' wife Isis feared for her life, and so she fled from the palace and raised her son Horus in relative secrecy. But when Horus was old enough, he was encouraged to challenge Set for the throne. After all, as Osiris was his father, the throne did technically belong to Horus, and seeing as Set had schemed his way to obtain the throne, he was not the rightful king anyway. The universal gods such as Atum and or Ra were not eager to get involved in the conflict, and though they had the power to simply choose between Horus and Set, it would appear that many of the gods were conflicted over who should rule. Set had the experience, the tenacity, and the will to serve as a fierce king, but Horus was the true son of Osiris, and by right of blood, should really have been the one in charge. So the universal gods, unable to make a decision, decided to let Horus and Set fight over it. This would see uncle and nephew engage in several contests, including transforming into hippopotamuses and seeing who could hold their breath the longest, or fighting each other in hippo form to see who the stronger god was. In some instances, Horus's mother Isis would also get involved and used her deceptions to trick Set into defeat, such as when she takes the form of a beautiful woman to enrapture Set and get him to admit that he's actually in the wrong. In another instance, Isis even tries to strike Set with a harpoon when the combatants agree to transform into hippopotamuses and hold their breath underwater. Unfortunately, Isis's aim was not true, and she ended up hitting Horus instead, which in some versions leads to an enraged Horus decapitating his mother. In one particularly brutal contest, after Horus flees in disgrace for having murdered his mother, Set hunts him down and plucks out his nephew's eyes, though Horus does luckily regain his sight when he is healed by the goddess Hathor. The contest was soon deemed too violent for even the gods, and so Horus and Set were eventually instructed to sort out their differences civilly. Acquiescing to these demands, Set invited Horus over for dinner and wine, and whilst the two were believed to have discussed the matter of conflict, it isn't clear whether they came to any sort of agreement. In any case, we are told that both uncle and nephew grew tired and decided to have a nap together in Set's bed. Apparently, this was pretty normal, and Horus didn't see anything weird about jumping into bed with his uncle, especially one who just previously gouged his eyes out. At some point during the night, one thing led to another, and Set, being a dastardly deviant, attempted to penetrate Horus. Somehow though, Set missed his mark, and when he ejaculated, Horus actually caught the semen in his hands. You know, I really think condom companies have missed a marketing opportunity here. Anyway, Horus was shocked and pretty repulsed over what had transpired, and so he fled from Set's bed and ran to his mother, who was likely resurrected after she'd been beheaded. Some accounts specify that the god of wisdom Tot replaced Isis's head with a cow's head, allowing her to continue living. Now, Isis was just as repulsed by the act as Horus was. In fact, she was so disgusted that making Horus wash his hands wasn't enough. Indeed, those hands would never be clean again, so she severed them and threw them into the river. Luckily, Isis was a master of magic, and so she was able to manifest replacement hands for Horus that hadn't been sullied in the most ungodly of ways. Now, the most common version of this tale is that Isis suspected that Set's violation wasn't some carnal act of a horny man, but instead a deliberate and tactical part of his master plan to position himself as the rightful ruler. Angered by this, Isis sought to strike back at Set by, well, fighting fire with fire, or in this case, seed with seed. Some versions indicate that Horus was instructed by his mother to spread his own seed into Set's garden, specifically his lettuce patch, so that when Set came to eat the lettuce, he would essentially be inseminated. But another version, one that's even more messed up, is that Isis actually uses fragrant oils to arouse her own son, and then extract his holy seed herself. The next day, the gods summoned Horus and Set to present their cases, having assumed that uncle and nephew had spent the night talking, and not, well, committing to biological warfare. Now, Set, believing that he had impregnated Horus with his holy seed, declared that he had done a man's work to Horus, and so, with that, he ought to have been the rightful king. Essentially, he believed that by penetrating Horus, he had made a woman out of him, and because a woman couldn't be a king, Horus was therefore disqualified. The gods were struck with the revelation, and they very nearly elected Set as the one true king. But Horus declared that Set was a liar, and that if they wanted to see who had done a man's work to who, then they should summon the seed there and then, and see whose body it rose from. It was Tot, the god of wisdom, who stepped forward and placed a hand on Horus's head. There he beckoned forth the seed of Set, but it did not rise from Horus, and instead rose from the river where his hands had been cast. Then Tot approached Set, placed a hand on his head, and beckoned forth the seed of Horus. To this, Horus's seed emerged from Set's head in the form of a golden solar disk, proving to all that it was Horus who had conquered Set. Set, who was quick to realize that he himself had been deceived, attempted to destroy the solar disk, but Thoth snatched it from him and placed it upon his own head as a crown. With this revelation at hand, Horus was deemed right, and Set was deemed wrong. In some accounts, this isn't even the end of Horus and Set's rivalry, as the two go on to compete in a boat race. Horus built his ship out of cedarwood, but disguised it to look like stone. Seeing this, Set decided to use an entire mountaintop to use as his boat, but when the race started, Set found that his boat sank immediately, which allowed Horus to win. This went on for 80 years, with Horus usually being the victor of these competitions by being able to outsmart his uncle. In the end though, Osiris, the original king who had been killed by Set, was consulted, and we are told that he penned a threatening letter from the Duat, which he now governed over, stating that if justice was not served accordingly, then he would send savage-faced monsters from his realm to tear out the hearts of the gods. Fearing this reality, the gods were quick to get behind Horus, forcing Set to concede at last. Horus was crowned as king, and Isis leapt for joy, while Set was soon imprisoned for his crimes and brought in chains to Ra. The gods rejoiced that the matter had been settled, and Horus reigned as mightily as his father had, where he was never bothered by Set again. As always guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. Until next time.